Hi, and welcome to the next edition of the Best Fleets to Drive For podcast. And with me, I have K&J Trucking. K&J Trucking is a 100-truck premier temperature-controlled and dry van carrier out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And it was founded in 1979. And I am joined today by Michelle Cook, who is the president, also known as Shelley, who I will be referring to as Shelley. Jennifer Raddatz, the safety director, and Josh Gwirdinton, a driver with K&J Trucking. And I didn't mention in 1975, Shelley, you did not found the company because you were like two. And then your father, exactly, you were like not even thought of. Your father, Dave Cook, founded the company. So that's the K in K&J Trucking, but what's the J?
So back in 1979, when we started, my dad partnered with a gentleman by the name of Don Yerke, Jerke, just to make all of the last names hard. And so that was the K&J. And at the end of 1986, we bought him out. My dad bought him out, and my mom and dad, and we kept the name because even 7 years into our business, it was recognizable. So we wanted to keep the name.
Oh, nice. I thought that I didn't realize that it was there was yet another name that I had to make sure that I pronounced correctly. Because do you still have Jaeger there?
Oh, yeah, we have
here.
Jaeger in here. Yep. Or
Yes.
now she's sleeping.
Now she's sleeping.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
That
she'll
is
pop
not a
up later.
person for anybody listening. That is not a person. That is a dog who is a she. And so if you see a dog in this podcast, that is who that is. So congratulations are in order for the second time you were K&J Trucking was the overall winner for the best fleets to drive for in the small carrier category. And so I wanted to ask you, Shelley, last year, so I read the article or the interview you did with Overdrive magazine last year. When you won the overall award, the first time you had thought previously that winning the overall would have been too hard to crack.
Yes.
So now you realize that your company is now we're never going to be able to do it. It's too hard to crack. So what do you think about that?
I think we're blessed. I mean, I was really surprised we won again this year. I don't know. It's hard. Trucking is hard, and it's hard for everybody. And we're, working into 3 years of a down cycle. And the fact that we won again is just a little bit overwhelming to me. And I think to our entire team. But again, we're blessed with really good operators and drivers who stay with us and support us and work like side by side with us. So thank you for doing the program. It is such a neat program, and we're just really happy to be part of it. And I've heard other carriers say this, and we would echo their sentiments. We become better because of your program, and we're really thankful about that.
Oh, thank you. Well, on that, I think I know why you are an overall winner. I'll tell you that in a sec.
Good.
I know what is helping that. And but you won the overall award twice. You were on the top 20. You were nominated first in 2021. And then I think your first time out where you were a fleet to watch?
Yes. Yep.
Yes. And so what made you actually participate the first time? I know it was partly because you were nominated, but what made you go through that whole grueling, all the stuff we make you do?
I think we really just wanted to honor the owner operator that nominated us, and we wanted to give it all of our attention. And I remember the feeling when we came out as a fleet to watch, we were all super disappointed. Like, we were like, oh, are you kidding me? We just couldn't believe it. And then people started congratulating us and saying, I don't think you understand. Being a fleet to watch is pretty hard. And we're like, oh, okay, well, if we get nominated again, we're going to try it again. So, yeah.
Okay. I know this whole thing about the fleet to watch is almost more disappointing than not making the list at all. That is what I've heard, or like the response I get from people, or their lack of response, like they don't speak to me again. It's like, well, it wasn't a bad thing. That was a good thing. But
Very much so.
when I was gonna come back to you about why I think your company does really well in the best ways to drive for is something that you said just before we were we started. And that was because you're talking about, being up here with the ideas, and then you come in and basically say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And your team kind of responds with, oh no, and then gets it done. So how does, Jennifer, I think maybe you can kind of talk about this a little bit. When Shelley does come in and say, hey, here's this idea, this is what I want to do. How are we, let's do this. What happens on the other end?
Well, I was on a different side of the trucking industry before in the past. So there's different avenues and different angles that I look at things. And those are things that we have to overcome as well. And it does all work out, not all the time, but we get there. We just might have to take a path less traveled to get there.
Oh, do you have an example of that?
Oh, geez.
No, listen, seriously. If you want to, don't worry about talking about things that didn't work. Because one of the things that we like to talk about in Best Fleets is the things that didn't work.
Well,
Because
yeah,
they're
because we
interesting.
all learn from every experience we have, whether it was a success or not. We know that this is what we'd have to change if we did it again. We've had some ideas on maybe reevaluating how we do some recruiting, and we've had some wild-haired ideas. Some have worked, some haven't.
Yes.
Advertising on the back door of a
Toilet.
yeah, you've got a captive audience. They're there for at least a few minutes, looking at the wall if they're not looking at their phone. So, some things work and some don't. So we have a good laugh about it and move on from there.
That's cool. Josh, I'm gonna bring you into this. Have you experienced any of these, or do they die on the vine before you actually have to experience something that may
Uh,
have been not a great idea?
I can't really think of anything offhand that got to the point where the drivers, or at least me as a driver, saw it, even if it was a bad idea. I've seen plenty of good ideas come through, obviously, but yeah, I don't know. I think maybe I'm not real big on going out and being a test subject for if they have new ideas and stuff like that. So I'm guessing other drivers maybe have more experience with telling you, no, I don't think this is going to work, or things like that.
Actually, Josh is rather humble. I mean, he hasn't been a test subject, but he's very good at having some things thrown at him. As an example, 2 years ago, or was it 3 years ago? 2 years ago, we had a driver that had to step down from competing in the truck driving championships. Well, we already had the whole, paid for, lack of better words. So I went out and I grabbed Josh and I said, Josh, here's the book. You got a week to go through it. And let's see what you can do. And lo and behold, he comes out and he gets the top written test score. So if that doesn't show you somebody that has the ability to go with the flow, to make the best of a bad situation, not bad, but a time constraint situation, I don't know what does. But Josh is very flexible and very good at doing those short-term things. I don't think he gives himself enough credit.
Ah, nice. So Josh, that's really interesting that you ended up in the trucking driving championships, and I want to come back to that. But first, how did you find K&J? Was it on the back of a stall?
No, it was a little more normal than that, I guess. I was
Also do normal recruiting. K&J does normal recruiting.
for the most part they do, yeah.
For the most part.
No, I was my previous job, I was just unhappy. I was looking for a place to work. I wasn't in trucking at the time. I had been before. I wanted to go back to it. So I just did an internet search of trucking companies in Sioux Falls because we didn't want to go too far from here. And they popped up. They did refrigerated, which I had experience with, and sounded like they're a good God-fearing family company. And it just kind of that piqued my interest, and it kind of went from there.
Yeah, nice. Did you, what was the experience like when you were, first coming in? Do you even remember that was 7 years ago?
Um, they all acted like they wanted to get to know me. They all acted friendly, and now that I've been here 7 years, I know it wasn't just acting friendly, but yeah, it just they were willing to answer any question I had. They were transparent. There was nothing I found out later was just to get me in the door and then flip it on me later. Just seemed genuine to me.
So, and I find this really interesting because so many drivers say this, or people working as drivers say this, is that, and you kind of had it in your voice as well. It was like they were friendly. It's really unusual. But I would tell you that everyone who talks to me about best fleets will tell you that they're the friendliest, most wonderful, we're going to embrace you. It's going to be great. But it seems to not be the case. Would you agree?
I would say so, probably. I haven't, I've only worked at one other company before this, but they were definitely just get the job done and keep going.
Yeah, okay, I see. Like just sort of so are you an owner operator or
I
are
am
you?
now, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, were you an owner operator before?
I was not, no. This is the first place I have been. It's been 3.5 years, I believe, that I've been an owner operator.
And did K&J actually help you get in the truck? Like
They
get
did.
into your own truck?
They did, yep.
Oh, okay. Let me hear about that process because that is interesting. I'm interested in that because did you do a lease purchase with K&J?
Yeah, yep. That's actually currently what I'm doing now is the lease purchase. Yeah, it's really easy. You gotta I suppose if you haven't had experience with it is why you had to be a company driver. So they require you to be a company driver with them for a certain amount of time before they'll allow you to do it. And then from there it's real easy. I don't know. I can't really compare it to anything else because I've never done anything else like it. But
Do you feel like do you feel like you're going to eventually, I should probably kick Jennifer and Shelley out of the room. So many people talk about how, you're set up for failure in a lease purchase
mhm.
and that you're never going to be able to climb your way out of the red and that kind of thing. And the driver surveys that we get have kind of tell a different story. And Shelley has talked about, the difference in your lease purchase program, well, actually, Shelley, can you talk a little bit about what how you've structured it so that people can actually succeed?
Sure, absolutely. I think we've been doing this easily 25 years. And when I reached out to our attorney to write the lease, I said, I want a good lease. I want one where the driver succeeds and where we're protected if something goes wrong. Because if it's not good for both of us, it's just not good, right? We both have to win. And so he did a fabulous job. We still use that same lease today. They do have to drive for us 6 months because we need to get to know them and they need to get to know us. I know a lot of companies you can walk in and get in a lease truck, but like, how do you know what you're getting into and how do you know the company? And so, as you know, we're big on relationships. So we get to know how the driver runs. And at the end of 6 months, they're not guaranteed to go into our lease program. If they have some service issues, if they have some safety issues, dispatch issues, couple of things happen. If they're very minor, we'll talk to them and say, you really just need to work on it to be successful because these are the things that are going to hurt you as an owner operator, right? Your load selection is going to hurt you, your time off is going to hurt you, and you're not going to make money, right? If they're big enough, we sit down and say, you have to work on these things and we'll reevaluate you in 90 days. And if they're bigger than that, they don't usually stay too long. Or some people really just don't belong owning a truck, right? Not everybody should own a truck. And so I feel like most of the time we can discern that over a 6-month period. Once they do that, once we know they're interested in it, ideally we put them in the truck that they would lease, because then they get used to it. They know if there's something wrong with it. They know if we need to fix something ahead of time. Typically between 180 and 220,000 miles is ideal. We put them in it for what we consider a term of about 500,000 miles. That's when we need to be looking at that truck. We can extend it if they bought, if we buy additional warranty, or if the trucks, or we can shorten that up, right? We're very fluid. We're very easy on that way. But Josh is actually on his second truck with us, and he definitely had enough equity. I think about 20,000, something like that in this truck. I can't remember, but he probably could have gone to the bank and financed. And our local bank, who's been with us from day one, is fabulous, and they use us as a credit reference. Another kind of hindrance for owner operators drivers wanting to be operators is either their credit might need some work, or they don't have down payment money. And with us, you come in with nothing down. It's sometimes hard to get a lot of equity in that first truck because you come in with nothing down. And then we try to put a payment that makes sense for their lifestyle and yet gives them, so the payment's got to keep up with the physical depreciation of the truck. So this is getting very involved. I'm sorry. But anyway, so like all these factors are considered, right? And we have my oldest son has a real good ear for what's going on in the marketplace for buying used trucks and that type of thing. They get the benefit of our buying power. So when we lease it to them, the base lease is based on what we paid for it to begin with. So we don't inflate that. We didn't even inflate that during COVID when trucks were going for double what they were worth. So a lot of our owner operators did really well with their trucks during COVID, because they could sell it for more than they paid for it. And then they could get into one of ours for, not a lot of money. So anyway, all that to say that it's been wildly successful. Usually by the third truck, sometimes by the second truck, the owner operator can go to the bank, we vouch for them, they can get their own loan, and they're fine. There's no secret to being an operator other than you just have to drive, right? So if you're not, you can't, do 10 or 12,000 miles as a company driver, go to 8,000 miles as an owner operator and make a lot of money. It just doesn't make sense, right? So those are the conversations we have. We watch them, we kind of give them information. We're working with our accountant right now to provide like a week snapshot of what their cost per miles are that they could just download the settlement to. So we're doing some things to help them have a little bit clearer view, right? Because it's tough. And if we can shave off a little bit on our fuel expense or a little bit on our maintenance, it makes a difference. So, and then I'll just finish with, I think we've taken back 3 trucks out of over 150, and Two of them were voluntarily given back to us, and one we had to take back because of performance issues. Again, you can't not work if you're in the lease program. So
if you don't want to drive, then it's difficult.
Yeah. So I mean, it happens, right? We pick the wrong person, or they just decide they don't like it or whatever. But
but still, 3 out of 250. That's not bad. That's a pretty good ratio.
Yeah, I think it's closer to like 150. I could be wrong, but it could be close to 200, but it's been a lot. Over 25 years, we've done a lot. I think we have 40 trucks in our lease program today. So maybe it's bigger than I think, but it's...
Well, that kind of takes me back to one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, which was about how you actually started working in the company, because you're, obviously it's your dad's company. And then, how did it end up being passed on to you? And
Sure.
I kind of there's some assumptions, but what did you want to be when you grew up? Like, were you thinking you were going to be heading up a trucking company?
Total honesty, I wanted to be my mother. I had this wonderful upbringing where my mother didn't work outside the home when we were little, and we came home from school to bake cookies. And I mean, she was phenomenal, right? I mean, I just grew up in this wonderful life. And so I had an aspiration of just being my mother. That's really all I wanted to do. And so
unusual.
I got out of high school and I went to a tech school in town for computer programming, which is hilarious because I hate everything, and none of those languages are around anymore. And I hate anything IT. So my roommate at the time was getting married, and we were going to go on a Apple River, Wisconsin tubing trip. I mean, things were a lot less than they are today. These gals do these big trips today, but we didn't. And so I needed some extra cash. So I came to K&J Trucking at like 19, right? And started auditing logs, paper logs. And I had a little stool in the back room that I sat on. And back in the day, if they weren't right, I just erased them and made them right. I mean, that's how they did it in 1981 or whatever it was, right? So we've come a long way, baby.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I
And
have
then-
like, so no one has actually told me that they erased things, but I have been told by many people around the early 80s that logs were they were kind of you sort of get them sort of right, and it was all right.
We didn't call them comic books for nothing.
Yeah, it was so funny because my dad started with one truck in 79. So it was a couple of years later, and he's just busy growing and trying to make it work, right? So if I came across a set of logs that were older than 6 months and hadn't been audited, I just threw them away. So we didn't need them anymore, right? So those were the old days. And then they needed more help, and I was going to school, and I just kept working and working and working. And then when I came out of school, I came here full time. And my dad had his first heart attack maybe in the 85, 86 area. And he was very young, 45 years old.
Yeah,
It
I was gonna
it was
say.
very, very serious. And so he was, my parents were like, oh, we probably better do some succession planning. I'm the middle of 5 children, and I always say I'm the only one that could work for my dad. So, and because we all work here, right? When you have a family business, your whole family works there. And so the boys came and went, and there was a lot of personality conflict. And my older sister got to be my mom, so she didn't really have to work. She did come in later on and work a little bit with us. And my younger sister worked with me when she got older. But
Wow.
at age 25, I think they said, do you want to take over K&J? And I said, sure. I was like an administrative person, right? So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, that's how I got here. Yeah.
So Jennifer, how long have you been with K&J?
I'll have 17 years in the end of June.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So did Shelley hire you?
Yeah, she did.
Okay, so how did that work out? What were you doing, Shelley? Were you like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing.
No,
Well,
I've been here a while.
I had been here before. Shelley,
Oh.
one of the things that attracted me to K&J Trucking was the fact that Shelley and K&J was very forward thinking. They were one of the few companies that actually invited me to come in and visit with them so their drivers could be familiar with what would happen if Jennifer pulled you over on the side of the road and wanted to inspect your truck. Because I used to wear a uniform and a flat hat for 18 years.
Oh, nice.
So I had the enforcement side of my training done by the state of South Dakota as a motor carrier enforcement officer. And, they gave me a car and a gun and a set of scales and said, go forth and be fruitful. And part of my requirements as an officer was to come into businesses and to educate companies
Right.
about what we were looking at. And there were several times where I was invited to the driver listening lunches, as we call them now, to come in and talk with the drivers about what to expect when they were pulled over and what to look for and what we were looking for on trucks when we would get on our creepers and crawl underneath them and those kinds of things. And after there was a period in my life where I didn't enjoy who I was working for anymore at the state level. And I started looking for a different occupation. And I knew that with my knowledge that I had with trucks and regulations, that I could, jump to the other side.
Mhm.
And
I always say, come to the good side.
I went to the light side. They always accused me of being on the dark side when I wore the uniform. And so I got a position at another trucking company in Sioux Falls area. And I was there for a couple of years. And then you guys started looking for another safety director. And it's funny because it's not always what you know, but who you know. I had a friend of mine call me and say, hey, I had K&J call me and want to know if I wanted to go work for them. And I said, no. He says, I kind of like where I'm at, but I think I know another person that might like to work. So it's just kind of this web of connections. And that's how they came to call me and asked me to come work for them. And we had an interview. And I'm glad I don't have to do this again. But in that month, when I took the job in 2008, I bought a house. I sold a house and changed jobs all in less than 30 days
Ooh.
and had to move.
Did you get sick?
No, I didn't. But like 3 months later, we were audited and I ended up with hives. So it involved
Oh, there you go.
wine and chocolate.
I was gonna say, like, what physical manifestation of
Yes.
something of your stress came out? And it's usually you just get sick, but oh well, hives is not.
Yeah, that was not fun. Yeah, it involved a federal officer came in to audit and it was a chocolate and wine.
That is actually the cure for most things. I
Yes.
it's definitely helpful. It's definitely good medicine. So what would you say that the kind of, I mean, were you surprised when K&J won the overall award twice?
No, because they are forward thinking. They're always looking to try and make everybody successful. You know, Shelley said it once already. If it doesn't benefit the driver and K&J, it's of no benefit. And that's kind of part of our core values is we go the extra mile, we own it, we do the right thing, and we're geared for community. And those things all mesh together is what makes K&J K&J. And again, it makes it better for everybody.
Absolutely.
And that's it doesn't always in your face, but it's there and it's steady.
Excellent. I think I would agree. I think that there's a steadiness to K&J, but there's the sprinkling of kind of the Shelley's fairy dust in the kind of the the thinking outside the box and saying it can happen, where so many companies are saying, well, we can't. And I think that is a large part why a lot of fleets don't get onto the top 20 because they don't think they can. Or they tell us that they should be on, but they really don't think they can't because they can't do A, B, C, D, or E. And, other fleets are doing it, but we just can't they have there's tons of reasons why you can't. And you really have to just kind of make a choice to say, nope, I can. And I think I'm going to kind of return to Josh and the truck driving championships. And I want to see the shirt that you're going to. Oh, well, you didn't have to give it to him, but now you've got it. You can leave, Josh.
Okay.
Come into the middle.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And it's wrinkled. I'm sorry. It was folded up, but
No,
all our drivers have the same shirt.
So tell me about the truck driving championships. Like when that happened, how you're sort of like, here you go. You got a week, figure it out.
That's exactly what I did to him. Josh, this is what I've got. Can you do this? Do you think you can? I think you can. I know you can. Well, okay.
That's about all I had to go on because I had never heard of this program before in my life. So she's talking about this championship competition, and I'm going, you could be speaking Greek to me. I have no idea what you're talking about. But so, I just, yeah, she gave me the book. She had an old copy of an audio book that really helped while I was driving, so I could study while I was driving down the road and stuff, and just, just studied for the written test. And of course, I do a pre-trip every day, sometimes twice a day if I'm picking up a different trailer or things like that. So that was. I'm sorry.
Nice to hear that you're actually doing.
And then the obstacle course is, it's a lot of what we do on the road, but it's just kind of in a different setting. So that's probably what took me the most adjustment was I don't remember what I scored that first year, but I know it wasn't very high just because I'm not used to having all those cones and barrels that I'm not going by at 50 miles an hour, and I'm actually trying to get close to them. And so, yeah, it was I guess I'll call it eye-opening experience. Like I said, I had no idea it went on, and I had so much fun. I've been back every year since.
So, okay. So it's been like How many years? 5?
This will be my 4th year this year.
Oh, nice.
This Saturday, actually.
Yep.
So this is the state.
Yes,
Have you ever been to the national?
I've been the last 2 years.
Oh, nice. So I hear, and this is really interesting because I hear from a lot of fleets that, or is it drivers? I'm trying to think, or fleets say that their drivers don't want to do it because FedEx always wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so why bother doing it?
Well, like I said, I had a lot of fun that first year. Last year was really fun because we had a FedEx driver in the same class that I was competing in, and I knew he did really well. Went to nationals the year before because I was in a different class, and I ended up beating him in the 5-axle class. And it wasn't by a very big margin either, so I kind of felt pretty good about myself because FedEx always wins, except when you beat them. So.
Jane, we're a people of hope. We think we're going to win every year. We think we're going to be the best team. We have several drivers who get first. Josh is just one of them, but there's a team trophy too. And every year we're sure we're going to get it. We've not won it yet, but this could be our year.
Hey, I lived for a really long time in the city of, or near the city of Toronto, and I don't know if you know how much hope there is every year with the Maple Leafs who move
I do. I do.
ever.
I think we have to be hopeful.
Yeah, like Toronto's the city of hope just because.
Yes, yes, I understand. We have the Vikings not far from us. We get it.
It's crazy because, okay, just as an aside, it's a ticket to the Leafs is one of the most expensive in North America.
Oh my.
So you can go watch a team that everybody thinks is going to make it this year.
Well, they're living in the past, maybe.
They did win it, I think, in the 60s.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, very, very long time. So I moved. But so going back to the truck driving championships, there's an investment, right, Shelley?
Yes.
So why do you do it? Because like beyond you're the company of hope.
Well, we are the company of hope, but we believe in our drivers. We love the event. We've gotten to know drivers from all different companies, and we look forward to seeing them every year. I think last year it's all volunteer, right? So the people that work the course, I love to be a runner, so I trail these trucks and bring their scores in. But I think I looked last year and I counted 18 volunteers from K&J Trucking. I mean, we absolutely love this event, and we like to see our drivers be there, and we like to see them succeed and challenge themselves. And we just like the fact that it really honors them, right? It honors what they do. And it's just a big deal to us. I mean, I always say this is my favorite event of the year in South Dakota. Maybe right next to my fishing event, but this is very, very close.
Oh, there's a fishing. Is that a company event or is that a separate?
So we sponsored the South Dakota Trucking Association's annual fishing event, and we just had it last weekend. And even though I'm hopeful, I didn't win.
Well, you have to be, if you enter a contest, there has to be some element of hope. It's necessary.
Yes. Yes.
And when you don't have hope, that's when you say, oh, we don't do it because FedEx always wins.
Yeah, I don't care. They're nice people. You know what I mean? They're nice people.
Well, I like the idea that and I think this is partly why you're a best fleet and why you're the overall winner is because you put yourself out there anyway. It doesn't matter. The experience is fun. The experience gives you a lot.
Yes.
And I think, Josh, you've said it's fun. You've gone back every year. So obviously you're getting something out of the experience, whether or not you win, but you seem to be getting better at it. So you're winning.
Yeah. That helps make it fun, but I'd do it even if I didn't win.
So like, what is it about doing those kind of if you wanted to talk to another driver and say, yeah, you should do it, even if you're going to, come last.
I would start with the fun. It's a lot of fun. I'm not a people person at all, which is probably what makes me great with just being behind the wheel for hours on end. but I actually enjoy being there and talking with the other drivers and hearing their stories and talking about places we've both been at different times in our careers and just kind of soaking up knowledge from some of the old timers, I guess is one way to put it. But
Yep. Oh yeah, us old timers, we have that. There, we have some experience. Maybe not for me, not maybe not actually driving the truck, but no, I think that's great. I need to get myself to a truck driving because I've never actually been in like the 20 years I've been doing this job. I've never actually been to a truck. I've been to a lot of trucking events, but never that one. So I do
It's
want to.
close to you this year. Nationals is in Minneapolis, so you just got to hop across the border.
It's Minneapolis, so I'm in the southern end of BC. So Minneapolis, God, my geography. Oh yeah, I guess it is.
Yeah.
Too far away. Ah, I should. I should.
You know, you can travel to Toronto and on the way down there, make a jog to Minneapolis and then go back up.
Well, going anywhere from where I am now is kind of a drag, but I have to. That was one of the things that when we moved here, we were like, okay, the travel. We're going to see a lot of the Seattle airport. That's basically you can get to Seattle or Calgary, and that's the only two places that Victoria goes to. But okay, going back to because this is not about me. I know. Um, the core values. I'm going to go back to the core values because I wanted to ask you about it. And Jennifer, you were really good at you know these things. You even almost got it in the right order as well. Because I have to write it down.
Oh, heaven forbid they're out of order.
I know.
Right, or
My perfection there.
Well, I was wondering if, when you started saying them, I was wondering, oh my God, is it even going to be in the right order? And it was nearly. But so those core values come out of somewhere. Like at some point, you had to figure out what they were. So where did I can see you nodding, Shelley. So how did they come about?
I think it was 5 years ago, or
I
6
think
years
it's
ago.
longer than
I
that.
can't remember, but I was at a TCA event in Florida and met with another trucking business owner, Van Wyck Trucking, and Darla Van Wyck said to me, "Have you read the book Traction?" And I said, "No." And so I quickly got it and read it on the plane home, and it's a management style. And I have never embraced anything like that because I just think it's a bunch of crap, I guess is the best way to say it. Yeah, whatever. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know, something about the book and something about the process really grabbed me. So I had our management team read it. We talked about it. Our local bank had just employed the same method. And I called the president and he's like, "I believe in it so much, Shelley, I'll fund it for you." And I thanked him and said, "We can pay for it ourselves, but thank you." So we brought in a facilitator and kind of started the process. And part of that process was to really define who we were, put it in writing, to put it down on paper. And so that's where the core values, the 4 pillars of K&J came from. And I don't think there's an order, Jane. They just are there, right? Although we embrace really strongly do the right thing. That is kind of a big thing. And kind of what's morphed out of those 4 values would be another value that we don't list, but we talk about and we always measure, right? Which is courageous honesty. You just have to be honest. And it seems easy to say that, it's hard to do. Sometimes it's hard to be honest, right? And so we talk a lot about it's not always what you say, but how you say it. So if you're delivering that honest news, make sure you're doing it in a compassionate way, right? So,
Yeah. When with the expectation that the company, you're owning it as well. So you need to have that courageous honesty in order to have the opportunity to own the issues. And
yes,
if you don't own them, then like if nobody's being honest with you about what the issues are, how do you own them?
exactly.
Yeah. I like that. Like and I was kidding about the order. I was pretty impressed though that you had it all. Like it was like, wow.
Jane,
Even if I made them up, I'd forget them.
No, we use them in our daily language. I mean,
Nice.
our core values are important to us. And so we have an issue, we say, well, what's the right thing? Or did we own that? Or, you know what I mean? What do we need to do that maybe is beyond? So it really is part of our daily discussion here as a team.
Oh, I like that. So I think I'm starting to like I don't know if we started out or if when we were talking beforehand, before we started the podcast, and you said, I don't know, like, we're just trying to do the right thing. But I think that there's a couple of things that really are making you, or how to tell your own story. That was what we were talking about before. And I think that everybody does have a story, and telling the story is really important. And the core values, I think, are the key to that, is that you figured out who you want to be as a company, not necessarily what you're doing, like not necessarily it's tasks that you do every day, but you want to have that looking forward part and sort of how do what is my aspirational, what do I want to be? What do I want this company to be? And I think that's really interesting that you brought up traction, and not necessarily because it's that particular methodology, but what I've noticed a lot about the best fleets is that that's a common thread. So if you want to be a best fleet and you're watching this and we're talking about this, what it does, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shelley, you can tell me what you think, is it does give you a framework to kind of figure out how to make yourself better.
It absolutely does. It gives you the framework, guardrails, whatever, right? Your boxes that you're not going to veer off and do something that isn't right. If being right, doing the right thing is part of your core value. Right. And I got to tell you, it's not like we're not tempted. Like, let's be honest, right? There are situations it's like, I got to do the right thing here. It's going to cost me money. I guess it will, right? I mean, and then we go on. So I love to tell this story, and maybe I did last year, but this is one of my very favorite ones. But we had a driver picked up a load of pickles and froze them, right? So we bought a load of pickles, right? And the load came to our yard, and I love dill pickles. So I said, I think we could have a couple of cases before we take it to the dump, because the whole load didn't get frozen, just the outside.
Oh, but it was enough that everything got
right. Of course, they rejected it, and that's part of the risk of being in trucking. And it's always every truck line has a funny story. But so it's sitting in my backyard here, and I tell everybody, you guys can go get a couple of jars of pickles, right? And 2 days later, I find out there's like 2 pallets left. And I'm like, and churches are coming in, and they're getting these pickles, and I'm like, no. So we get all this done, and we take our 2 pallets to the dump, and they called Jennifer and said, we need the weight receipt. And for the 44,000 pounds of pickles.
And I told the lady at the insurance place, I said, I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I said, there was a lot of graduations that were served frozen pickles this year. I said, I've got a couple pallets that were disposed of. I says, but honestly, they were all disposed of. But just 1 jar at a time.
And I said, if we buy a load of pickles, we buy a load of pickles. She laughed, paid the claim.
Oh, nice.
That was good. That was good. Unbelievable.
Did you get pickles though, Josh?
I did.
I think
everybody got pickles.
I didn't realize that we weren't necessarily supposed to. Just somebody said, hey, there's a trailer of pickles, go grab me some.
So did the frozen ones, like even the frozen ones got, like people took them?
Yeah, because we had unthawed them by then, so nobody knew what was frozen or not. You got to open the jar before you figure out if they're good or not.
Okay. All right. And I'm not a pickle connoisseur, so I don't know if you can eat them.
I am.
And scientifically speaking, vinegar has to be really, really, really cold to freeze. So it was like, I don't know, in Canada, have you ever been ice fishing? It was a little slushy, but there was nothing frozen. You could still eat those pickles.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
just in that like sweet spot, like where you can't actually deliver it, but
yeah,
don't eat it. I love it.
Yeah.
So let's talk. Well, actually, I think we're nearly out of time because I haven't even really talked about, the things that, like some of the actual programs that you have. Suffice it to say, you do have them, and they have created kind of an atmosphere, which, your driver surveys are really positive, your turnover is really low. let me just kind of end off with the driver listening lunch, because Jennifer said that the driver listening, like you call it that, the driver listening lunch now, and that seems to have gone on for a really long time.
Yeah, we switched. Used to be we were talking to the drivers, you know what I mean? And now we have lunch and we just ask them what's going on, what issues they have. It just, some days everybody comes in and it's a love fest, and some days somebody comes in with a list of things they'd like to see changed, right? So it's a good place. And once we get through all the driver, discussion, what they're bringing to us, then we'll kind of update them on what's going on in the last 30 days at K&J and what we have going on and that type of thing. So I don't know, Josh, what do you think?
I like it. When I started, it was quarterly, and it was not even always on a Friday, I don't think. So it was, I was able to make it to a few of them for the first however long that was. It's a lot easier to just know it's the first Friday of the month every month, and if I'm in town, I can make it. If not, I'm not going to change my dispatch to get there. But
Yeah.
But it's a good time. Back to talking with other drivers, and this time it's drivers within my own company, and seeing, because everybody's got a different perspective on what's going on at the same company. So it's nice to hear if everything's going okay for me, but not necessarily for this driver over here. It's like, oh, I didn't know about that. That might be something that we need to look at changing, whether it's us as drivers or in the office or whatever it might be.
Oh, I like that when you say we have to look at changing. It kind of speaks to the fact that it's not necessarily just office or management that has to do the changing. It's something that you're taking that ownership. We own it.
Yeah, there's been a few times where it might be a change in the office, but it'll affect something that I have to do on my phone for load tracking or whatever it might be. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. If it makes us better, or if it covers our butts a little better with the broker or whatever it might be, sure.
Do you so you find those useful? Do you find that when you do bring up issues, or not necessarily you, but when drivers do bring up issues, how are they handled?
Right. Yep. So I can almost tell you after the issue comes up if we can fix it or not. You know what I mean? So if it's fixable, we get it fixed and we follow up on it with the driver always. I think the last one, the guy had a couple of issues and it really had to do with his phone. So we gave him some phone help, but that's okay. You know what I mean? That's what we're here for. But yeah, a lot of great ideas have come out of our driver listening lunch. And what I find is very few drivers have big gripes, right? They're little gripes. They're little things we can do better. And so those are the things that, 99% of the time I can say, yeah, we can do that. We'll go to work on that and get it going. So we'll set up a program or whatever the case is, but we don't. And then sometimes it's just like, they don't like a particular receiver or shipper. And, it's really just explaining we don't have control. However, if it's abusive, that's another story. I mean, we can choose not to go places, right? I mean, we can just say we're not going there. If we have enough drivers that have too many problems, we just won't. That's not a customer for us, or that's not a shipper for us. So recently we have a shipper who's kind of wrecking the inside of our trailers, and we've kind of talked about it. And I mean, we're done with them, right? So we just make those decisions based on what kind of feedback we get. But 90% of the discussion is real, 95 is real minor.
I like that, because I think, and there was somebody else who wrote an article about this, is that if you're dealing with the small stuff, like if you deal with it and get it out of the way, it's easy. It's when it gets bigger that it gets a lot harder to, so when the driver's going out the door because of this tiny problem that grew into huge frustration, you don't want to do it then. You want to do it, when it's still manageable. Actually, I do want to ask you one more question before we end off, Shelley. Why owner-operator model?
I don't know. I think
have you been dreading someone asking you that question?
No, I don't know that I have a good answer for you. We really would like to have about 30% of our fleet be company drivers, and we get close, and then they are eligible and they're really good, and they become owner-operator, and then we got a company fee. And so
That answers it.
I just think it just became our niche, and it was our niche before. I'm pretty sure if I had to guess what my mom and dad did, is like that was a cheaper way to grow. Right, it really was. You weren't buying the truck, you were just buying the trailer. And so back when, you know, I always, people laugh at me, but I grew up pretty poor, right? I mean, we didn't have a lot of money. And when we started this truck line, as everybody who starts one knows, we didn't have a lot of money, and we weren't, you know, things were tough, and lots of truck lines fail. And so I think that was the method to their madness, and it just seems to work for us.
Hey, you know, if you can create new, like basically you're kind of what do they call it? In tech, you know, they kind of have the thing where you put ducks when they're like, or
Yeah,
chicks.
like self-populating.
Incubator.
Yeah,
You're an incubator.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah.
You're an owner-operator.
No, I have chickens.
I don't want if you have, there's actual chickens there that I don't know.
No, they're at her house.
They're at my house.
Okay, why does that not surprise me?
That's
But no.
Okay, so you are what did I want? I'm going to end off with, I'm going to ask you a really hard question, Shelley, so prep.
I'm ready.
What advice would you give me if I were a company president asking you how to get on the top 20?
There's two things that I would tell you. One is love your people, right? Love your people. Love the good, love the bad, love the ugly, love your people. That's just the up in the air. If you love your people and you do the right thing, you're going to get nominated. What I would tell you on the practical side, when you're filling that thing out, don't be flowery. Like what we've learned over the years is bullet point. You either have it or you don't. And I was probably one of those people that said we'll never be first because we aren't in a position to offer our operators healthcare. And I think I've whined to you about that, right? And so don't let that take you down. Just tell your story, and tell it briefly and concisely and bullet points, and get through that thing. And if you love your people, the driver, I think the reason we win is our driver surveys come back high, honestly, because we're not the best on some of the other things, and we know that. But we love our people, and that's probably the big thing.
Can I add to that?
Absolutely.
Okay. The 4 core values that we have, and we try and practice as much as we can, but we're human, so we fail at times. Our niche on that was to do the best for our drivers every day. And some days we do better than others.
Yeah, that's true.
And they understand that.
Yeah.
And they're human too, so they're forgiving, because we do try every day to do the best for our drivers that we can.
Nice.
Yeah.
I just want to say that it's not just your driver surveys.
Oh, yeah. Every time I go through that scoring, I'm like, darn, we couldn't get it.
Your driver surveys really help.
Mm-hmm.
But your programs you may not have the best programs in everything, but nobody does.
Right.
They absolutely don't. So, you know, I understand that's, you know, I like your whole thing about being concise and stuff like that, but don't think that the driver surveys, I really want to make sure that people don't think that getting high driver surveys are going to do it for you.
Oh,
they won't.
I just assumed. I mean, I really think our drivers love us, and I think that helps. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like we have such consistency, and we don't have much turnover. 5% year to date, so we're pretty good. And they're like family, right? So that's where I go most of the time.
But it's good. Absolutely, you need good driver surveys. Drivers need to be happy. If your drivers are not happy, you definitely won't be in the top 20. Like if you have to get that, it's table stakes to get good driver surveys. But you also, I would not discount your programs to do what you're doing as a company that's primarily owner operator. Your program scores are really good. And you have to have that because programs is the bulk of your score. So it's programs and then driver surveys and then your safety and retention. And because you have, and it's more about, and I'm just kind of telling you why you won, but it's more about listening, doing things, experimenting, listening to the feedback, doing something about the feedback, and then repeat. And having those core values there, that's kind of your bedrock, is how you approach doing those things. And because you do that, and it's really a healthy way to kind of run your company, even when you have to spend money on things that you don't really want to. But what you're going to get at the end is going to be the benefit. So I don't want to have a like, well, actually, Shelley, you're wrong. I don't want to.
It's okay. I haven't been wrong yet this week.
But I think one of the things one of the things in the questionnaire that I noticed, and this was something about, because we go through the questionnaire before we do these things to just make sure we remember who's doing what. You pushed to have each department understand what the other one does, and I think that's part of it as well.
Yes.
So, talk a little bit about that, and then we can finally finish.
Yep, I'll try to give a quick answer, but
No.
One of the things we've done in the last year is we have company-wide meetings, and it's usually the second Thursday of every month, and it's really the state of K&J, but each department comes in and talks about what's going on in their area. So we're sharing that information. I mean, Jennifer came in and did a thing about how we get our SMS scores, and it's supposed to be like a 20-minute deal because we're all away from our phones and this is trucking. So we try to make it quick. But that thing went over 30 minutes because of the total interest from every department about, well, what do you mean? And they asked her questions. And so as we're sharing that vital information interdepartmentally, we're learning, right? We're learning. And this year, every month we have a safety message and we have a culture message, and my culture message this month, which will be coming out, is support. And sometimes it's grace and kindness, but it's really that support for that other department and for each other. Because if we're supporting each other in the office and the shop, then we're going to be a one unified team that's going to benefit the driver or operator. And so, yeah, that's just understanding what each department does and how we all are connected. So
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
That's a nice place to end up.
Yeah.
We're all connected and all supporting each other.
Yeah.
And I look forward very much to having you be in the program again. Who knows? You may win it again. There's the 3 times seems to be a thing. There's fleets that end up winning it 3 times, but who knows?
We'll
But
see.
we will see.
We'll see. We look forward to it too.
I thoroughly enjoyed talking to the 3 of you. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast, and we'll see you again next month.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.